I'd like to welcome our final speaker, who will be speaking on technology, Ms. Bili Sule.
Hello, everyone. So now I have the impossible challenge of, following all these amazing presentations, and I'm sure you guys are a little bit tired. So I'm going to kick us off with a quick exercise. Can everybody stand up, please? I know. Yes, it's one of those days. Can we shake, wiggle around, get some energy back in the room, give somebody next to you a high five, and tell them that you're happy to be here? All right. Is the energy back in the room, or do I need to do jumping jacks? All right, thank you very much. All right. We've been listening to some great presentations about the circular economy. We've been seeing products. We've been talking about the financial side. The bottom line is, right, when you're looking at that phrase, circular economy, the economics of it matters, right? For these things to be sustainable, for you to be able to generate revenue from your products, from the initiatives that you're running, for them to be sustainable, the economics matter, okay? The nairas and kobos matter. And so what I'm going to be talking to you today about is how to grow. So I've had the privilege of actually leading growth at 2 startups that became unicorns. A unicorn is a company that achieves $1 billion valuation or higher, right? So this is where my experience and expertise comes from, and like what I'll be drawing from to talk to you about growth today. And what I want to do, the field of growth is massive. In fact, I have like a training program in my company that lasts about 6 months. So we're only going to scratch the surface. We're going to talk about a growth framework that I think anybody who wants to grow any type of business or initiative needs to know. So I used to head growth at Jumia Nigeria. I used to head growth at MoneyPoint as well, and I've been a growth consultant for various startups across the continent. So that's my background. Sorry, next slide, please. I don't know if it's very clear. Can you guys see it? It's not too clear, right? But also, what I'm going to be talking to you today about, these frameworks can apply to any type of business. All right, so it's not like maybe like focused on tech businesses or things like that. Like any type of business, fintech, health tech, non-tech businesses, applying the same growth principles can add value. All right, and you can see like we've worked with different kinds of companies, including CIP. So, and some of you might have gone through this course, so please, you don't give the expo. All right, so next slide, please. So I'm going to be talking today about funnels. Who has heard about funnels? Okay, some of you have taken my course. So when you're thinking about growth, one term or one framework that comes up a lot is funnels. It's thinking about, literally, if you think about a funnel, right, you're adding things to the top and something is coming out of the bottom, right? And sometimes things leak out of that funnel on the way. So you might not get as much as you're putting into the funnel. So when you're thinking about growth, you need to think about growth in terms of a funnel. That's one of the frameworks that we use to conceptualize, to measure, and to plan growth. So I'm going to be talking to you about that today. And over time, people have come up with different variations of the funnel. So there's a lot of terminology out there. There's the AIDA funnel, there's the Pirate Metrics funnel or growth funnel, lots of different ones. But I'm going to talk to you today about a couple of very simple ones that anybody can apply to any business, any initiative that you're trying to drive growth for. All right, next slide, please. All right, so we're going to look at 2 different approaches so that we can break through the noise. The first approach we're going to look at is just a simple 3-step conceptual model, and it's what I call MISI, mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive, and I'll explain what that means in a bit. And then we're going to actually look at journey-based funnels as well. So when you have like your own business, like how do you map out what exactly your own personal funnel looks like? We're going to look at that at the end. So starting first of all with the 3-step MISI funnel. This version of the funnel is really helpful. in helping to just simplify or communicate a strategy overall in a business or for an initiative that you're trying to run. So some businesses might have very long funnels. So for example, if I want to buy something on an e-commerce platform, right? The funnel journey or the journey of a customer might look like I see an ad, then I go on social media, then I click on an image, then I go to a browser, then I type in the website, then I visit the landing page, then I go to a category page, then I click on a product, then I add it to my basket. So you can see that that journey or that funnel is very long, right? So when you want to conceptualize growth or you want to plan growth at a strategic level at your organization, using this 3-step MEC funnel can be super helpful just to condense it into its core elemental parts. All right, so let's look at what MEC stands for. Any consultants in the room who know what MEC is? Okay, I have a tough job today. So MEC stands for mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive. And this term was coined by a lady called Barbara Minto, a McKinsey partner. And it's a principle by which they use to look at framework. So when you're analyzing a large amount of data, how do you do it in a way that you can, that is structurally sound and that you can draw valuable insights from? Mutually exclusive means that when you're categorizing information, one individual cannot appear in more than one category, okay? So let's take gender, for example. Oh, well, gender, maybe nowadays is not good. Not a good example. Okay, let's take vehicle types, right? So if this item is a car, it cannot be a bike, correct? Right? And a bike cannot be a car, correct? So those categories are mutually exclusive. Yeah? And then collectively exhaustive means that all the categories together give you a full picture. Right? So if I want to know about all the possible vehicles that there are, I can either say, okay, I can categorize them by bikes, by buses, or if I wanted to be collectively exhaustive, I could say air vehicles, airborne vehicles, land vehicles, sea vehicles, right? And we know that those are the only 3 ways that you can possibly, unless you're looking at the spiritual realm, but that's a topic for another day. But like physically, if you want to move from one place to another, you're either going by land, by air, or by sea, correct? So those 3 categories are mutually exclusive and they're collectively exhaustive. Does that make sense? Right. The same way, let's take a more mundane example. So when you're thinking about, when you're thinking about age categories, right? So some of you're collecting data. You're trying to get demographic information from people, and you're doing age ranges. I see this mistake happen a lot of times. People will say, okay, you're from 30 to 50, then from 50 to 60. Those are not mutually exclusive because 50 is present in both groups. Does that make sense? So you're supposed to say from 30 to 50, then 51 to 60 to make it mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive. Does that make sense? Fantastic. So the first version of the funnel that I'm going to show you today is the MEC version. And it's in 3 steps, as you can see up there. It's awareness, consideration, and conversion. And this is a basic funnel, and this is what invariably people will go through. This is a journey that everybody will go through to try and patronize you, right? So if you're selling anything, like people will invariably go through this process. Now let's talk about each and every stage of this. Literally, any business that is not doing this, a lot of times, I see businesses focusing on one area. So you might see them focusing on awareness, for example, doing a lot of marketing, right? So I get questions like, Billy, we're running a lot of ads, but I'm not getting orders. And I'm like, because you haven't thought about people's experience of your business as a journey. You are doing awareness, and your outcome, you're expecting conversion, but you haven't told me about what you're doing in between. So you're leaving a lot of money on the table. So as a business owner or as anybody running an initiative, you need to understand that your job as an organization is to take people along this journey. So you need to be doing all three things. Let's look at each of them one by one now. So awareness. This is the stage where you're literally just letting people know that you exist. All right? And why you're relevant to them. I'm so sorry that the slides aren't very clear. But yeah, the point of this stage is to let them know that you exist. So let's take it to a real life example. Let's say I want to go for, today is Monday, I have a dinner party on Wednesday, and you're all supposed to wear black dresses, okay? Right? And I need to buy a black dress for this party. When I'm thinking about where to get a black dress from, it's only the companies who I am already aware of that sell dresses that I would consider, right? Right? So there might be a clothing store maybe next door to my house or across the road, but if they haven't done a good job of driving awareness, there's no billboard, there's no signage that lets me know that, okay, there's a fashion store here, they wouldn't even factor into my consideration process, correct? Fantastic. So in the same way, a lot of people, or especially small organizations or founders, often also think that driving awareness is wasting money, but it's not, because you don't always see the immediate gain. I think, Emeka, you talked about, we have a culture that thinks largely short-term, right? So, but when you look at the whole picture, if people don't even know you exist, you don't even come into their decision-making process. So the first job as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, somebody who's running a circular economy initiative, is to make sure that people are aware of what you're doing. So that when they are starting to think about partners or they're trying to think about who to buy from, they even know that you exist. So the point of this stage is letting them know that you exist, letting them know about your offering and why it's relevant to them, but at a very high level. You're not going into the detail of, okay, my products are made from XYZ, they do XYZ. No, like at a very high level, what is the core value proposition? And really, your goal here is reach and recall. So this is another fallacy that I hear all the time. I'm running ads which are driving awareness. And I'm expecting orders. When the goal of awareness is reach and recall, so I'm not supposed to measure my awareness activities against a conversion outcome. Does that make sense? So if I'm driving awareness, the goal of awareness is to reach people and for them to remember you. So that's what I need to measure any activities that I'm doing to drive awareness against. Correct? So reach and recall, how many people did we reach? How many people are remembering us? That's how you measure awareness. And then different ways of doing that. I mean, there are the traditional ways, the billboards, flyers, radio, traditional media. And then obviously in the digital age, we have online channels as well. You have ads, you have search engine marketing, SEO, and all sorts, right? So there are ways that you can drive awareness for your business. And there's another part of this is really understanding who your customers or who your audience is and how, like what their lifestyle is like and what channels do they normally interface with. That's how you start to select which channel you use to drive awareness. All right, let's go on to the next stage. Now that people are aware of you, right? So when there's a need that comes up or you're driving, generating demand, they enter into the consideration phase. This is very different from awareness. Awareness is like just letting them know that you exist. For consideration, you need to convince them that you are meeting their need or you have value to offer them, and also in comparison to your competitors or alternatives that are out there, right? So you need to convince them. This is the part where you need to convince people. You need to build trust. So you can see a lot of times people are just doing marketing activities, but they're not clear as to what funnel objective am I driving. So we'll just go on social media, we're just doing posts, but is it driving awareness or is it driving consideration, right? Being aware of that journey helps you to like be really clear. These activities I know are driving awareness. These activities are driving consideration because I'm trying to build trust. I'm trying to get people to understand how my product works, right? I'm answering questions. Anything that factors into people's decision-making about your product or your service comes into the consideration layer. And this is probably the biggest layer or segment of the funnel, right? So you want to provide more information about your products and services, the pricing. If people are comparing you with competitors, what things are they looking at? What factors do they consider when making a decision? And how do you make sure that information is available? So let's go back to my, my dinner party example, right? So let's say the store next door didn't do a good job of awareness, so I don't even consider them. But I know that Jumia online, right? They sell clothes, correct? I know that maybe there's a mall 5 minutes away that I can go to that has clothing stores. So they've done a good job of awareness. Now I'm trying to think, my dinner party is on Wednesday, yeah? If I order something from Jumia today, when will I get it? Maybe 2 or 3 days' time. If Jumia had a next day delivery option, but they didn't communicate that consideration, so they had the ability for me to get the dress the next day, but they didn't communicate that. I've already eliminated them from my options pool. Does that make sense? So you might have value propositions that factor into people's decision-making that you're not being salient or clear about, that makes people take you out of their option pool when they're considering products or services. So it's really important, right, that you're clear on what factors affect people's decision and making sure that that information is there. So Jumia didn't do a good job of letting me know they do next day delivery, and I go to the physical store to buy this dress instead, right? So you can see that is a journey, right? This process, it seems very mundane, like I'm just buying a dress. But there's a journey, there's a mental journey, like am I aware of options? What options am I aware of? Then how have the options that I'm aware of conveyed the value proposition or the way that they're meeting my need? All right? There are different ways you can do that. I mean, from a sales perspective, that's when you have brochures, you have slides, proposals. Online, this is where your website comes into play, your social media platforms, right? When somebody is thinking about your product, the first thing that they go and do is what? They'll go and search. So they might do a Google search. Are you visible in Google search? They might go on social media to see if your page is active. Like, what is going on there? So you need to think about, again, the journey of your typical user or audience and where they would be, or what would their instinct be. Another instinct could be to ask people, right? So that's where word of mouth will come into play and offline channels. So really understanding your users is important to know how to deploy your consideration strategy. There are other things that affect consideration as well, right? And these are more sort of behavioral triggers. So promotions, discounts, incentives, and that kind of stuff, right? Also, things like nurturing communication. You think that once somebody is aware of you, that they're always aware of you, but you have to keep staying at the top of their mind. How are you engaging them on an ongoing basis so that when something does happen and they need your services or products, you are top of mind? Now, that takes us into the last stage. It's probably the most important but the least glamorous one, which is the conversion stage, right? Everybody's always so focused on, oh, I want to do marketing, I want to use influencers, I've got a beautiful website. But have you really thought about when somebody gets to the point where they've decided to buy, what are the things that could cause them not to buy? That is very important. This is where the nairas and kobas start to matter, right? I've seen a lot of companies, they do well, they advertise, they have good products, they convince people, and then the conversion process is so clunky that they start to lose customers. Let's take this dinner party example again. So Jumia knocked out of my consideration process. I've gone to the physical store and I see a dress that I like, right? The dress that I like it fits me, but is in green, is not available in black. Availability influences your conversion, right? If people are needing red tiles and all you have is black tiles, right? Understanding the needs of the market and making things available based on what you know the user needs is super important, right? For your conversion. Okay, what if somebody says, okay, madam, this dress, yes, we have the black one at the back. So they go to the store, they bring out the black one for me, I try it on. I've decided that I want to buy this dress, correct? So the issue is not to convince me. I'm already convinced I want to buy this dress. I get to the till, their POS isn't working, right? And I say, okay, can I transfer? They say they don't accept transfers. Automatically, they've lost that transaction, even though they've done a good job of awareness, they've done a good job of consideration, they've gotten me to the decision that I'm going to purchase, but they lost the transaction because they failed to put up the adequate infrastructure to convert me and adequate processes. So when we're thinking about growth, it's really important to think about it in the context of a funnel. And we're going to do a fun exercise. But before that, conversion is, the point here is to enable commitment and consummate a transaction. I see people always tell me, oh, I'm trying to do a promo so we can get more orders. The promo will help people to get to the decision to buy, but it in itself doesn't guarantee you the conversion if your conversion process is not solid. Does that make sense? So people always confuse the stages sometimes. It's really important to know and be clear about each of these individual stages and what you need to do for them. And how you do this is really optimizing things like payment methods, any rebuttals, minimizing the number of steps, or making it easy, something that's the natural way for people to pay, right? If you want to go to your malam, are you going to go to your malam with a debit card necessarily? No. So you need to think about like your target audience or the vendors and think about like what is the natural way or the typical way that they would be comfortable with paying. And the supply side matters as well when it comes to conversion, because if somebody is ready to buy from you and you don't have the products available or not in the quantity or the variation that they need, you can also lose that transaction. Great. Do we understand the funnel now? Awareness, consideration, conversion. Fantastic. So we're going to do a fun exercise. This is the interactive part. All right. Let's take this mundane example that we see often on the streets. This lady is hawking groundnuts in traffic. All right? So I'm going to test your knowledge. What do you think she's doing to drive awareness? What does she normally do to drive awareness? Yeah? Fantastic. So she said she's in traffic as opposed to having a regular store. So traffic is a high traffic channel, right? So in terms of awareness, remember is reach and recall. You can reach more people in traffic, right? Is there anything else that she's doing to let people know that she exists, that she's there in that traffic? Yes? She's announcing, she's shouting, correct? Groundnuts, hot groundnuts. Okay, I'm not the best. I won't make a good hawker. But yeah, she's shouting. Any other thing? You guys are growth experts, so already. I need some ideas from this side. Huh? Okay, you can see, she's displaying her groundnut, exactly, right? And you can see how this translates into other types of products. People need to see your products. So even in your ads, you're like doing good product images, and things like that, and making sure that you're putting it in a high traffic channel, right? So that more people can engage and see it. Fantastic. What does she do to move customers from awareness to consideration? Okay. Fantastic. So she has them pre-packed, so it's easy to deploy, right? Any other thoughts? Okay, yes? Yes? Discount, an incentive, right? If a customer wants to buy in bulk, and somebody there had a try. She allows them to try some, right? Think about it. Like, what are the things that factor into your decision to buy a groundnut? Is it sweet? Is it fresh? Those are the things that you need to communicate. So she allows people to try them. Same thing with software. We see freemium software. You try some things. When you want to get into the real nitty-gritty or the real value of that software, they now put a paywall, right? It's the same type of principle, whether it's somebody selling groundnuts or a digital app that you're trying to drive growth for, right? So she gets people to try them. She displays them well, etc. Now, you're in this traffic. She shouted. Different sizes. Yes, I think she mentioned that. So, and you're not allowed to participate. You already have the expo. So, now, you're in this traffic. You've seen the lady. She shouted, groundnut, groundnuts, right? She's giving you some to taste. You have decided, I must eat this groundnut. Otherwise, I must eat this groundnut. Then, what are the reasons, or how does she make sure that she closes that transaction? Okay, Emeka? Change. She has change available, because that's a blocker, right? If you don't have change, then you say, I can't buy. Anything else? Yes? She's fast with the transaction, because remember the context, you're in traffic. They're moving. If they go, your money has go. All right? So those are the things that she currently does. You can take the same approach, applying the funnel framework to your business. What am I doing to drive awareness? What am I doing to drive consideration? What am I doing that drives conversion? Now, the next step is where it starts to get interesting, right? So you know what you're currently doing. You can now think like a growth engineer and say, what can I do to optimize or to do more of this, right? So we are all growth engineers now. Let's optimize this groundnut seller for more growth, starting with awareness. What can she do to drive more awareness? How can we amplify what she's already doing? I'm not calling you. So we talked about she's doing announcements. How can we amplify an announcement? And feel free to think crazy. This is where innovation comes. Yeah? Sorry? Give her a megaphone. Absolutely. So her announcements will travel further and wider, right? Remember reach and recall. Absolutely. Any other thing? Yes? Fantastic. Remember there's recall. She can have a placard or wear something, maybe like a bright red t-shirt that has groundnut on it, right? That aids recall. So every time you're coming down that road, if you see the same lady in a red t-shirt, it helps you to remember her, right? Sorry? Collaborations. Okay. Collaborations. How does that drive awareness specifically? Okay, so collaborations, maybe if she has like her children also wearing red t-shirts and they're dotted across the road, right? So it expands her sphere of reach, absolutely. Fantastic. And why I had to double down on that is you have to be very specific, because you can do collaborations at any of these stages. Like, what exactly are you collaborating on to drive that objective? Fantastic. So we've optimized her for awareness. What about consideration? Yep. Fantastic. Other products, like if I'm getting groundnuts, right? What are the other things that I might want? Do I want Fanta? Do I want a cold drink with it? Do I want Gary? Right? Right? So how can you bundle up, like through partnerships, bundle up services that are relevant? Any other thing? So remember, consideration is where you are putting out information that pertains to somebody's decision to buy. So if you want to buy groundnut, what are you thinking? Is it clean? Is it fresh? Is it tasting nice? Like you had the way it's measured. Is she is the nylon still looking saggy or is it looking packed? Right? Any other thing? Yep. Price is down already, because pricing is important for people, right, in their buying decision. Yes? Hygiene. Fantastic. Hygiene is really important. How she's presenting herself to show that it's made in a clean facility. Some crazy ideas that we've had in the past as well to just convey that it's fresh. You can give it a smoke machine, so it looks like the steam. This is just freshly made groundnuts. Like, you can really be innovative and think about how to drive growth for even something as mundane as a groundnut seller. Now, last but not least, again, please try and be creative, right? So how do we optimize her for conversion? Have a POS machine, right? Even if you can't have a POS machine, there are other ways, yes? More helpers, absolutely. Transfer, absolutely. Imagine if her t-shirts also had her transfer details, right? Or a barcode, yes, a QR code. Absolutely. Any other thing? So we've talked about the payment side, but the other side of conversion in that context is speed. How can we optimize her for speed? Yes? She can have, sorry? Different sizes already pre-packed also helps. Anything else? Imagine giving her rollerblades. So she doesn't have to run too much. She can keep up with the traffic, right? You can see how you can become very creative, especially when you look at what you're doing in awareness, consideration, and conversion, right? You can start to think and really give yourself the freedom to be creative and think outside of the box. You can always refine what is feasible and what you can experiment with later, right? But you can see how you can start to systematically just think, using a simple funnel framework, think through your business, what you're doing, and how you can optimize it further for growth. All right, so rounding up. Okay, we've done that part already. Okay, don't click, please. So this is a quick quiz. I wish I had I have a prize to give. I'll give a free course on my, a free growth training course, probably on the audience definition framework. So you're learning one framework today, but whoever performs really well in this quiz, are you ready? We'll get a free course from Algorithm. All right, so you know what the different stages of the funnel are. Let's test each of these initiatives and your knowledge of which part of the funnel it fits into. So posting daily on social media platforms. Oba, you're not allowed to participate, and you too, thank you. Does it drive awareness, consideration, or conversion? Awareness. Most people said awareness, right? Anybody have a different idea? Yes? Sorry? All three. Okay. Interesting. Any other ideas? Fantastic. So can you please just click? It's actually consideration. Can you think about why that would be? If you think about it, right, the way that social media is designed, especially before Reels came out, the people who see your content are those who are following you already, right? Most of the people who see most of your content are already following you, right? It's only through specific tactics, like maybe using hashtags, that people that are outside of your followership can see your content, or maybe using a format like Reels. But most of the time, the people that will see your content mostly are those who are already following you. So they are already aware of you, right? So social media now becomes a platform where you can drive engagement, you can build trust, you can ask questions, you can answer questions, right? You can build that rapport. So what I'm saying, also just to be clear, I'm not saying that social media does not drive any awareness. I'm saying what does it drive most strongly in that funnel framework. Does that make sense? Fantastic. And social media conversion is probably not the case, because you're not consummating a transaction on social media, right? All right, so let's look at airing our jingle, like our adverts on the radio. You know those radio adverts that go, I'm not a good singer, but they have like maybe 10 or 20 seconds, and they play it like at the top of the hour, every hour, right? So is that driving awareness, consideration, or conversion? Okay. Let's look at that. Correct. You can give yourselves a round of applause. So you're getting it, right? Now let's look at the same channel, right? It's also radio, but this time Your CEO is participating in a radio interview. He's answering questions from callers. He's talking about how your product works, how the service works, how to reach out to them. Is that driving awareness, consideration, or conversion? It's like I have to give everybody a free class at this point. So, yeah, please. Absolutely, it's driving consideration. And that's a key point I want you guys to understand. Because a lot of times we're just thinking about activities on channels. Oh, Instagram. No. What are you trying to do on Instagram? If you're trying to drive awareness, there's something that you're going to do on Instagram that's optimized for awareness. If you're trying to drive consideration, there's channels, there's the type of content you're going to deploy that will drive consideration. Does that make sense? So the same channel, right, you need to think about the format, the timing, how you're going to deploy on that channel to drive your funnel objective. Now, offering multiple payment options, is that awareness, consideration, or conversion? Conversion, absolutely. You guys are growth engineers already. Running a paid ad campaign on Facebook, awareness, consideration, or conversion? Awareness? Sorry? Consideration? Awareness, okay. Can you show the answer? It's awareness. Actually, you can, the biggest scam, by the way, and you can quote me on this, the biggest scam on ad platforms is conversion ads. Conversion ads do not convert. Shishi. They do not convert because they just get people to your website or to your app or to talk to you. If you don't have the product or the service or the way for them to pay, they're still not going to convert. They're the biggest scam. So I never believe in conversion ads. But you can have consideration ads. They're called remarketing. So what happens is, imagine, again, you're taking a funnel view. People are aware of your products. So imagine I've gone on Jumia's website now. So let's say I've seen a Jumia ad that says Jumia is a e-commerce store where you can buy anything, right? I know what Jumia does now. I go to the website. Now I'm looking at bags, yeah? But I didn't buy anything. If I'm on social media, do I need to see an ad that says Jumia sells everything again? No, because I'm already aware that they exist. I'm already aware of what they do. Now, I need to be served information that drives my consideration. So now, Jumia knows that I visited the website and I saw bags. That's why when you visit Jumia, you look at watches. Anywhere, any website you go to, you start to see watches everywhere. They are remarketing campaigns. They're moving. They understand that you have to take people on a journey. So if people have visited your site, you already know what they're interested in. You need to serve them more information about what their interests are in, right? Cool. Sending text messages, SMS messages to existing users. Is that awareness, consideration, or conversion? Consideration. You guys are excellent. Yes. Okay, now the last question. Boosting. So you have like a post engaging people on social media and you boost it, right? You add some money to it and boost it. Is that driving awareness, consideration, or conversion? Sorry? Okay. A mixed bag. Right. So that was a trick question. And actually, never boost. Let me just put it that way. Oh, gosh. So boosting is a very inefficient way of achieving either an awareness or a consideration objective. If you think about it, you're taking a piece of content that was designed to drive consideration and engagement. You're now trying to show it to more people and to try and use it to drive awareness. So it's not actually, you haven't optimized the content for the channel or the objective that you're trying to drive. And we have another whole lecture series around that. So it's supposed to be a segue into that. But I hope with this quiz, you guys have an understanding of, having to take people on a journey and how different channels or different mediums or different formats on each channel can drive a particular objective. Yeah? Fantastic. So last but not least, I'll ask you to do that for your business. Please, next slide. Last but not least, I want us to just touch on the journey-based funnel. We've talked about the MISI funnel, which helps you to give, work with your team and have an overall strategy, right? But how does it now pertain to your own particular business or different products within your business? You need to start getting into granular journeys. So that's where the next funnel version comes in. And I'm going to really fly through this. So let's look at this example, right? This is an e-commerce funnel. I think I touched on it earlier. So somebody visits the homepage, right? They go to maybe a category, like a fashion category, or they search in that category for shoes, or they search for bags or whatever they want to buy. They go to the product page, they add the product to their carts, then they go into checkout, and once they've paid or completed checkout, they become customers. You can see how you can map out the journey, like what is that journey that people take with your business or your service to patronize you. You can see that, right? And where growth engineering becomes really powerful is when you can start to put numbers to this. So I know that 100 people visited my website. Out of the 100 people that visited my website, only 80 actually searched for a product. Out of the 80 that searched for a product, maybe 50 actually landed on a product page. Out of the 50 that landed on the product page, maybe 10 added that product to the cart, right? When you can start to quantify, right, how many people are at each stage of your journey-based funnel, you can start to optimize growth. Because you can see that the biggest drop-off is here. I know it's not very clear, but that's gone from 60% to 30%, right? So if I want to optimize growth, I want to drive more orders, I know that's where I need to focus on, that product page. I need to find out, why are people not adding that product to their carts? I need to find out, what can I do? Do I need to change the product images? Do I need to change the description? Do I need to have an offer, maybe a discount? What can I do on that product page to have more people adding to their shopping cart? Because as a business owner, there's lots of things that you can be doing. How do you know where to prioritize your focus on right now to get the most value? You look at where the biggest drop-off is, and then you can focus on those areas. I hope that makes sense. Fantastic. And I think that's it from me for today. That's just another example. But yeah, that's it from me. Thank you.